Alright, how's it going? This is Dominic, and we're going to take a look at my audio mixing and mastering video tutorial DVD. Now, once we're done navigating around the DVD and I've showed you a little bit about it, this YouTube video is going to roll right into some of the compression video from the actual DVD. I would also like to add that since this is a YouTube video and I'm just showing you around the DVD, it's free form. It's not scripted. The DVD and the actual teachings are more scripted and they follow an organized pattern. Alright, so let's jump right into it. This is what you're going to get, okay? Everything you see here, it's on the DVD. It's approximately, let's see, 4.33 gigabytes. Now, what the intro tutorial does when you first pop your DVD in, you might be tempted to watch the video from the DVD inside your computer. You don't want to do that. What you actually want to do is you want to explore to your DVD drive and copy the whole Dozer Tutorials folder, which you see right here. You want to copy that folder to your desktop. That way, when you watch the videos, you're not reading them from the DVD. They are coming directly from your computer. Because if you try to read them from the DVD, you got to wait for the DVD to load on certain parts of the videos. Now, so the intro tutorial here, that goes over that. It talks about that. It also talks about how to pause the video, how to navigate around the videos, and ideas for staying organized with your learning. Alright, keep in mind that I am on a PC, so if you are on a Mac, I have a website that I'm going to be giving you the address to, and you can actually go there and download some of the test tutorials, some of the free ones, and you can test your computer system. Also, if you're on a PC, just go there and you can download the free sneak peeks and stuff like that, and that will allow you to see if you can actually watch the DVD on your computer. So let's go into the intro tutorial folder. There are a couple of different ways you can open this. If you're on a PC, the way you're supposed to do it is double click on the intro tutorial.exe, which will launch the tutorial window. You're not going to be able to see the whole thing because of the sizing of my screen here. And let me pause that. So there it is. All right. It goes over how to use the actual window, how to use the play and the pause, the time indicator and stuff like that. Now, there are a couple of other ways you can open the tutorial. And there is a read first document. Make sure you read that first. Just double click that and read that. It has some other instructions. You could also click on this .swf file, which will also launch it. If you have it should launch it in Adobe Flash Player, as you see. All right. There's also the intro tutorial. Now, if you're on a Mac, I believe this is the way you're going to want to do it. You're going to want to double click on the intro tutorial.html. Now, if you're on a Mac, I know they have things like Boot Camp and stuff like that so you can run the Windows operating system. You know, you should just get something like that if this doesn't work for you. Anyway, if you click on the intro tutorial.html, it actually launches the video in a window of your browser. So it allows you to use your browser as the video player, so to speak. So that is basically how you watch the tutorials from the DVD. If you go to this website here, I go in depth on which each section of the DVD has. The website is, as you see here, dozermain.tripod.com. Now, when you go to that website and you click on the DVD area, like what's on the DVD, it's going to give you a more detailed description, I should say, of what is in each area of the DVD. For instance, templates and verses. It's going to go over everything that's inside the templates and verses. Now, of course, I can't tell you everything, but it's going to give you an idea. And basically, templates and verses is where you get to watch me record a verse. I'll show you how to set up different templates for recording. We have laying and mixing a hook, as you can see here. There's quite a few videos in there. And that is basically you get to see me lay a hook. You get to see how I lay the actual hook, which is the chorus of the song. And you get to watch me mix it. Next up is a song that I did called Rollin' on These Haters. And basically this is showing the actual session layout, how I recorded it, how I mixed it, the whole thing. Now I have a lot of these free ones like that on my YouTube channel. So if you go look around my YouTube channel, I have other ones showing how I basically mixed songs. Now these three tutorial sections here are basically, they're just added bonuses. They're not actually, you can learn a lot from them. However, it's not really meant to be the learning part of the whole DVD. Now, these tutorials are put in order, and I recommend that you watch them in that order. But like I said, these first 3 are just added bonuses. So if you're watching these and you're like, man, I don't understand this compression stuff. I don't understand this reverb. What's he doing right now? Skip those. Your learning starts right here with compression. All right. So you'll watch compression, then you'll move into gates, equalization, delays, reverb. Once you're done watching those, then you'll move into big lead vocals. You should not watch this one unless you know about reverb and delays, because we're going to be using those inside this actual tutorials. I highly do not recommend you watch any of these mastering tutorials because they're a little bit advanced. All right. Now, you'll understand them once you get to them because you'll understand compression, you'll understand equalization and all that. So I've put those in order, as I've said. So I recommend that you watch everything else before you even get to the mastering section. Now, as I may have said, these recordings that you're going to see here in templates and stuff like that, they were done in Sonar 7. Now, throughout this whole tutorial DVD, I'm going in different applications such as, I believe, Adobe Audition 3.0 and Sonar. I currently use Cubase 5. However, do not worry about that, because once you get to the learning section, I have everything that you need there for you. You don't even need to have a recording program to learn all this, because you get to see it and you get to see me in action doing it inside the program. All of the principles, such as compression, gates, it's all theory and practice. So they're going to be the same in pretty much any recording program that you use. So no matter if you're using Cubase 5, Pro Tools, compression is compression. Using equalization is using equalization. So it's all going to carry over no matter where you're at. Now, some of the DVD videos are in stereo and some of them are in mono. Most of them are in mono because it's me teaching you, and you do not need stereo for that. However, when I'm showing you other sound examples and showing you how something was mixed or showing you a concept, that video will be in stereo. So together, putting this whole tutorial DVD together, it probably took me like 3 months, maybe more, because I didn't work on it 100% all the time. I had to do other things, of course, being in the military and having a life and stuff like that. But it did take me about 3 months, and I believe that I'm being fair with a price of $35. If someone would have had this DVD when I first started, if someone would have had this DVD with the amount of information in it, I would have been light years ahead. It would not have taken me as long as it did to get to where I'm at right now. All right. So I believe I'm providing you a very, very good product. And if you're interested in learning about audio mixing and mastering, if you want to be able to put out a demo CD that sounds awesome, all right, if you want to be able to have songs that sound good and that sound professional, I believe that my DVD will give you all the knowledge you need to be able to do that. You'll be able to see how I do it, how people in the industry do it. Now, I know some of you are like, oh, here we go, just another dude trying to make some money. Look, I mean, I put my time into this, so I believe I should be able to get something out of it, right? And it is a little bit about money. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I'm going to make money off this. I already have. But I'm frustrated because I see so many guys out there. I see so many artists, and I hear their songs. I'm like, man, this is a good song. It's just, it don't sound right. It's not mixed properly. I would never, like, submit this to anybody. You know what I mean? And it's nothing against them. They just haven't been trained properly. So I'm trying to help you guys out here with this DVD, all right? I believe that the amount of knowledge that I'm going to share with you guys is going to help you immensely. I have a lot of people who have already ordered the DVD, and they love it. I mean, I haven't had anyone that was not happy with the DVD. All right, so I know some of you guys are like, man, this guy, shut up, dude. Just show me the damn tutorials that I'm supposed to be watching for free. Okay, I get it. You could have fast-forwarded at any moment. But anyway, check it out. I just want to share something with you. I had a Grammy Award mixing engineer who's done stuff for Michael Jackson, Justin Timberlake, Prince. He ordered a tutorial from me, all right? Now, you can believe me on this or not. It's up to your own interpretation. I could be totally lying about this, but I'm not. Now, what happened was I saw the name, and I was like, you know what? I saw the name in my email, and I was like, man, I know I've seen that name before. So I went and I checked. I went and Googled it. Sure enough. This guy, now, should I be worried? Because he also makes his own tutorial series. He has his own tutorial type channel on YouTube. All right. Now, did he order some tutorials from me to get some ideas for his own tutorials? Now, I don't remember if he ordered the DVD or if he ordered one of my auto-tune tutorials. I can't remember. We didn't like sit down, have drinks, and talk, all right? It was just, I seen the name in the order. I went and checked out his name, and sure enough, it was him. Now, I'm not going to tell you his name because I don't believe that would be fair to him, and, you know, I just believe I want to keep that confidential. But I was impressed with myself that, hey, there's a guy out there who's a pretty big deal, and he's ordering my tutorial. Like I said, you can believe me or not. And just because he ordered it doesn't mean my tutorials are, oh my God, they're the bomb. You know what I mean? Because, you know, they are, but all I'm saying is someone took, now he could have been doing that, which I hope it wasn't for this reason, all right? But I am a conspiracy theorist, to see how I teach and to maybe steal some of my teaching methods. Now, I'm not saying that's what he did, but you never know, all right? But he does have his own YouTube channel, and he has some very, very good videos. I wish I could say his name, but I don't think he'd want me to do that. So, but I know I'm going to get a lot of people asking me what his name is. I'm just not going to tell you, so don't even ask. All right, I know. Shut up. Been stalling. It's time for the long-awaited portion of this YouTube video. Let's get ready to watch it! Okay, I'm just kidding. Let's go. All right, now I'm going to explain the basic parameters of compressors. You have the threshold here, right? The ratio, the attack, and the release. If you look over to my left, now I'm going to close this. I want you to just remember that this line right here, this red line, is negative 15 decibels, all right? And then you have this portion, so you have this portion that goes negative 15 decibels all the way, and then all of a sudden we have this loud signal here, and then it goes away, and then we got another soft signal here, all right? And this red line here, I want you to remember, negative 15 decibels. Now the threshold is the level at which compression kicks in. I'll set it for negative 15, which is where this line is. So as the signal's going, the compressor is going to be like, hey, my master put me at negative 15 decibels. So if anything goes above this threshold, I'm going to compress it. That's what threshold means. Anything above this level is going to be compressed. It's the level at which compression kicks in. So I'm not going to compress right here, but once I get right here, that level's above, any level above my threshold is going to get compressed. But how much am I going to compress? The compressor knows, and that's what I'm here to show you. The compressor is going to compress by a ratio, by a certain amount. Okay, that's what the ratio is. The attack is, okay, so I'm not compressing. Okay, I'm going to start compressing, but the attack is the amount of time before compression actually kicks in. What happens is some of this loud signal is allowed to pass through undetected, and that time that is allowed to pass through untouched by the compressor is the attack time. The release time is once the signal level falls below the threshold, negative 15, the compressor is going to say, hey, you know what? The signal's not above my threshold no more. I'm going to stop compressing, but I'm going to wait until the release time is up. Now, these times are in milliseconds, all right? There are 1,000 milliseconds in 1 second, all right? So you figure this is 1/10 of a second. Now, so let's say the signal's going, it's louder, and then boom, it's no longer above the threshold, negative 15. It's at about negative 15, right? It's no longer above it. Let's say this is negative 14. Well, the compressor is not just going to release instantly. It's going to wait the release time before it actually releases full compression. And I'm going to get into more of the technicalities as far as ratios and stuff like that, and it's just going to get more technical here shortly. This is the basic idea. All right. Now, during compression, what's happening? If anything rises above this threshold here, this negative 15 here, anything that rises above it's going to get turned down by the amount of the ratio, but we're just turning it down. Well, this allows us to turn it back up. And when we turn it back up, we're actually also turning up the soft part. All right, let's get into talking about threshold and ratio and how they are related. You see this line here? Negative 20 decibels. You got a soft portion here, negative 20, a soft portion here, negative 20. You got this loud area here. All right, let's say our threshold is negative 20 decibels. Now, if you specify a threshold for a compressor of negative 20 decibels, right, and your ratio is, let's say, 2 to 1, okay? I'll bring up this plugin to demonstrate. You have we're going to say that this slider here is your threshold, okay? Negative 20, as in our picture off that's in the background. All right, that's our threshold. Any audio that goes above this level will be compressed because that's our threshold. And our ratio, this is the ratio area. I'm going to put a 2 to 1 ratio. Now what's happening is you're telling that, okay, what does it really mean? What does 2 to 1 mean? Okay. Now as I stated earlier, compression is the act of squeezing audio levels to fit into a smaller space or range. It's an act of squeezing anything that goes above this threshold into a smaller range, all right? Downward compression. Now, when you set a ratio of 2 to 1, you're basically instructing the compressor to squeeze the audio levels that go above the threshold so they fit into half the space. It's really basically simple. Don't let ratio of 2 to 1 or the actual name 2 to 1 get you down, all right? 2 to 1 is a mathematical function. I'll call it a ratio. For instance, I have 2 apples to 1 orange. I have half as many oranges as I do apples because I got 2 apples and 1 orange, right? But how many oranges do I have compared to apples? I have half the amount. If I have 4 apples and 2 oranges, that's the same thing as 2 to 1 if you reduce it. So basically, any type of ratio, whether it be 2 to 1, a ratio of 4 to 1, if you want to know basically what they're saying, invert it and create a fraction. A ratio of 2 to 1 is basically saying half of something. If you're saying a ratio of 4 to 1, you're basically saying a quarter, 1/4. So as you can see, all I did was I took this, inverted it, right? And it's now 1/2. So basically, if I say a ratio of 2 to 1, if I tell the compressor I want you to compress everything above the threshold 2 to 1, I'm basically saying that I want anything that goes above this threshold, any level, to fit into half the space. Now this is an input-output map, all right? Basically, this is your input area, and this is what's going to be output. So if you have from the threshold 20 to the very top of the audio signal, which is 0 decibels, or the loudest signal, that's a 20 decibel range, right? So anything above that will be compressed, let's say at a 2 to 1 ratio. Well, if there's a signal that was to reach 0 decibels, it would be fit into half the space. Half of 20 decibel range here is 10, all right? That doesn't mean that if something goes 6 decibels above the threshold, it's going to be lowered to 10. It means everything is going to be scaled 2 to 1. And I'm going to show you right now what I'm talking about. So, in our example, we are again affecting the audio levels above 20 decibels. with a ratio setting of 2:1. And the compressor will make this audio with a range of 20 decibels half as large. In other words, 10 decibels. In other words, the audio levels that were previously between here and here will now be squeezed to fit in here to here within a 10 decibel range. Basically, half of the original dynamic range. Instead of ranging from 20 to 0, the compressor will make the audio levels range from 20 to 10 decibels. It's basically 10 decibels above -20. And I'm going to demonstrate that right now. I got a ratio of 2:1. I'm going to use a fast attack time. 2:1. This is -20, and this is 0. So after compression, this range right here of 20 decibels should be half, because I got a ratio of 2:1, should be half that level. So this one should come down to 10. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead, click OK, and let's go check. Let's go check this level here. This level was rising 20 decibels above the threshold, -20, so it should have been cut in half. There's -10, so as you can see, it was actually cut in half, because before it rose all the way up to 0, which is, we're talking about dynamic ranges here, from -20 to 0 decibels is a total dynamic range of 20. Now we fit this audio information into half the space. Let's see what other levels we got here. -10. Okay, let's talk about another audio level, because it's not just this one that's going to be affected. Any level above the threshold will be affected by the ratio of 2:1. So if you have a level that is 10 decibels above the threshold at 2:1, it's basically going to get cut to half. It's going to be made to squeeze into half the space. All right. So instead of this signal rising now, instead of this peak here rising 10 decibels above -20, which is our threshold, it is now going to rise half, or a ratio of 2:1 above there, which is going to be to -15, which is going to be a 5 decibel dynamic range. From -20 to -15 is a 5 decibel dynamic range. We're basically going to cut this in half. Remember, we're working backwards here. So let's see if that's what happens. And there's that same audio signal. Disregard this little thing you see here, and you can actually see that it did in fact bring it down to -15. It was at -10 up here, but it brought it down to -15. Half. Half? Yes, because remember, from 20 to 10 is 10 decibels. It cut it in half. Now it's from 20 to 15, which is 5 decibels. It goes for any audio level above. It doesn't. If we deal, I don't want to deal with any type of odd numbers, because then it's gonna be harder to explain it. But let's say if you were dealing with an odd number. Let's say, for instance, we were dealing with something, and I'll show you how to use a calculator to calculate this. Basically, you take the threshold and multiply it by however much something is going above the threshold, all right? And you multiply it by the fraction. This is 2:1 ratio, right? 2:1 ratio. Let's say something rises 10 decibels above the threshold. We have an audio signal that rises above this threshold here, 10 decibels, right? And we actually do have one, remember. We have, this is -20, and this is -10. That's the one that rises 10 decibels above. Now, you won't actually be calculating this. This is just so you can understand compression. If it rises 10 decibels above the threshold, 10 decibels above the threshold, and you have and your threshold is negative 20, okay? But all we're concerned about is how high is the signal above the threshold? Well, it's 10 decibels. Well, we just take our handy-dandy calculator and we say, 10 decibels, this is your multiplication signal, times, so I'll go ahead and draw the multiplication signal here, times, and we have a 2-to-1 ratio, but we're going to change it into a fraction. 1/2 equals what? In order to do that on here, you got to go 10 times and actually act like you're doing the fraction. 1 divided by 2. Because in essence, all you're doing, all the fraction is 1 divided by 2. All right? Equals 5. Basically, it's going to equal 5. That signal that was going 10 decibels above the threshold, or any threshold, it doesn't matter what your threshold is, it doesn't have to be, so just forget about that. Whatever the threshold is, it doesn't matter. But if a signal is going 10 decibels above a threshold, and it has a 2-to-1 ratio, only 5 decibels is going to come out. So what's going on here? Basically, what's happening is the amount of signal that is going to be allowed to pass the threshold is going to be determined by the ratio. The ratio is telling you the amount of compression that is going to happen. Okay, so let's try another ratio. Four to 1. Well, what does that equal if you turn that into a fraction? Which equals what? Quarter, right? So you're basically saying anything that goes above the threshold of negative 20, however high it goes above the threshold, if it goes above the threshold, it's going to be made to fit into a quarter of the space. In other words, only a quarter of the signal is only going to be able to allow to leave. So if I do this, let's say a signal rises 10 decibels above the threshold. Multiply that by 1/4 equals, I'll show you on the calculator, a certain signal or peak is rising 10 decibels above the threshold. We have a ratio of 4 to 1. 1 divided by 4, or 1/4, 2.5. At a 4 to 1 ratio, if a signal rises above a threshold, 10 decibels, it will be made to fit into a 2.5 decibel range. Let's increase our ratio, shall we? What's happening is now, if you notice, if I take 4 of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, I can fit 4 of these into this hole. 4 quarters equals $1. 4 to 1 is the same as saying 1/4. All right? What was a 20 decibel dynamic range is being fit into a quarter of the space. So now, let's see what happens to this audio signal. This audio signal right here is going 20 decibels above this threshold, right? Because it's a 0. So according to my calculations, to our calculations, is that if something is rising 20 decibels above the threshold and we multiply it times the inversion of the ratio, which is 1/4, because our ratio is 4 to 1, 5. So what that's telling me is that for something that rises 20 decibels above the threshold at a ratio of 4 to 1, only a quarter is going to be able to go through. It's only going to allow a quarter of that signal. It's going to squeeze all that signal to fit into a quarter of the space. That's the way I want you to look at it. So let's see if that happens. In other words, only 5 decibels of that 20 decibels, it's going to be brought down in level so that only 5 decibels is allowed to pass. Let's see if that's what happens. If only 5 decibels is allowed to pass, then it should only go from 20 to 15. Our dynamic range now is definitely from 20 here to negative 15. So as you can see, our calculation was correct. At a 4-to-1 ratio, for a signal that rose 20 decibels above the threshold, it was fit into a quarter of the space. We have essentially squeezed the dynamic range into only 5 decibels. I have here the Sonitus Ultrafunk compressor. It comes with Sonar 7, Sonar 6 too, I believe. The parameters I want you to focus on are the threshold. Look over here. We got a signal here that is a constant negative 15 decibels. So I'm going to set my ratio for, let's say, 2-to-1. All right. And I don't take my knee. We'll talk about knee later. The only parameters I want you to be concerned with are these two. And really just the threshold, because I'm about to show you something. Now if I play this, I'm playing it right now, and you will know when I'm getting compression because you will see this. See how it's right here? See, this is my GR, which is gain reduction, how much I am reducing the signal. As I bring it down and I start to get compression, you will notice I get gain reduction. Right now I have 6 decibels of gain reduction. Actually 5.7 if you look at this number. Well, if a compressor kicks in at its threshold, then once I reach negative 15, which is what the signal is at, I should start to see compression. So I'm going to reset this counter here, and it's showing you your input. If you notice it says input, it's showing your input level is in fact negative 15 decibels, right? So I'm going to start to lower this. I am now at negative 7.9 decibels, and I am not getting any reduction, right? I am now at negative 11.8, still no compression. I'm at 14.9, almost to 15, and there's no compression. I'm now at 15.8, and we are now getting compression. So compression has now kicked in because we have reached the threshold. Or we should say the signal has gone above the threshold. I'm telling the compressor, hey, Mr. Compressor, I want you to set a threshold. I'm going to set you a threshold negative 18.2, and I don't want anything going above that. If it does, I want you to compress it. And the amount that I want you to compress it is 2-to-1. I want you to compress whatever goes over, let's say a negative 20 threshold right here. I want you to cut it in half. So if something's going 5 decibels over, because that's what this is right now, it's at negative 15, I got a threshold of 20, and it's going 5 decibels over, I want you to cut that in half. What's half of 5? 2.5. So 2.4, you know, it's not going to be exactly 100%. And we'll get into that later about how it's not going to be 100% all the time. I am basically showing you a perfect compressor. This is what happens in a perfect compressor. And it's the fact that not all compressors are perfect is the reason why some people like a certain compressor as opposed to another, because of the non-linearities of that compressor that gives it its certain character and sound. Why some people like an LA2A or a URI 1176 compressor. You know, why someone likes an optical compressor as opposed to a VCA compressor. And I'll get into types later. Now regarding knee, because this has to do with the threshold and the ratio, and they're all interdependent. You have what's called a hard knee, which is what you see here, and I'm going to exaggerate the ratio here. You'll notice that right here, now let me explain what this is a little bit. Along this line, this is called a transfer graph or a function graph, there's no compression right here. Once the audio signal, let's say for an audio signal, if the threshold is negative 20, if you follow a line right here where this knee bends, I'll put it on negative 18 so you can see. Negative 18. You see right here? That's where it bends, at negative 18 right here. Now, if a signal is, for instance, that's specifying the threshold, negative 18. If a audio signal is 30 decibels, it will not be compressed. If it's 24 decibels, it will not be compressed. However, if it goes above 18, it will be compressed. Now the knee, this function here, if you notice when I change the knee softens. It gets more of a round type look to it. Now this would be a hard knee, and basically what it's saying is the threshold draws a bold limit between no treatment, no compression, or 1-to-1 compression. Just know for now, I'll show you how to read a function graph later. This line is 1-to-1, but once you get here, it instantly turns into 10-to-1. So if anything is below negative 18, there's no compression. But once we get to this line, it's a 10-to-1 ratio of compression. Now, that's a sharp transition. That's instantaneously between no compression, 1-to-1 ratio, and 10-to-1. All right? Now, we can soften that. Now, that creates an effect, and it's called hard knee compression, and it's more noticeable. Now, we can soften this compression by lengthening the attack and release, but there is another way, and it's called soft knee. And basically, what it does is it enables a smoother transition between no treatment and where gain reduction starts into where there is treatment. Somewhere what's going to end up happening is instead of gain reduction starting exactly at 18 decibels with a softer knee, we can have it slowly transition into compression, from a 1-to-1 ratio slowly into a 10-to-1 ratio. So basically, hard knee toggles, Toggles, it toggles between 1-to-1 and 10-to-1 instantly. Now on a soft knee compressor, the ratio can gradually grow from 1-to-1 to 10-to-1. And here's an example. If I set a knee of 10 decibels, what that's saying, now this isn't 100% technically correct, but just follow me along here, is that over the range of 10 decibels, okay, the knee of 10 decibels, you could say that compression is going to start 10 decibels below the threshold. Some people like to use that definition. It's going to allow me to explain it if I use that definition. We could say that basically compression, instead of starting at negative 18, is going to actually start a little bit sooner. But let's use the technical idea behind it. What it really means is that over a 10 decibel range, full compression will go from 1-to-1 to 10-to-1. So it's going to go 1-to-1 right here, right? And it's going to go 1.7-to-1, which is we're starting to do some compression here, right? And then we're going to be, as we get higher, 2-to-1, and then all the way up to 10-to-1, right? Now, I'm going to use a better function graph so that I can show you that.